Ready to go.
Cheap, I mean, Starbucks does them too.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee to order. It is March 12th, 2024 at 6:45. I'm Sherry Tice, Chairman of the committee, here with John Moats and Zach Brooks, and President Keller, Tom Klitzke, and Tom Duval as well as our mayor and service director. So the first thing we have on our agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from January 19th. Did you get a chance to review those?
I did. Yes.
Did you have any additions or corrections?
I don't think so.
No? You weren't at that meeting. I didn't have you yet, but may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the minutes will be approved as submitted. Thank you. Our first thing on the agenda this evening is an ordinance from the service director. Melissa, could you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to execute a right-of-way easement to America Electrical Power Company, granting it the right to install and maintain electrical transmission lines across lands owned by the city of Circleville and used as part of the Cargill offices, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. And we have Jim Stanley here with us this evening to tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, that's an easement that AEP needs to get power to the new location for the new Cargill offices that'll be built on that site once they get their final plans approved, which it's been through planning and zoning, and those site plans have all been approved. So they're ready to get building. They've started some deconstruction on the property, so it's across the Visitors Bureau property. Basically, it's an aerial easement getting power over to that area. So
they're going to bring lines in from West Main Street then
Yes.
across to their new building and then also over to Mound Street, it looks like, from
that point,
exhibit that we were given.
yeah. And the only portion of our easement, some of that easement is on other lands, but that portion that's on our property is what we're talking about. Yeah, but it will go over there. Yeah,
Where it goes across the Visitors Bureau
right,
building, because that is a city building.
right.
Okay. Do either of you have questions about this?
No, I do not. I don't think so.
Okay. I have another question, not related to the ordinance, but related to Cargill. I know when they came and did their presentation to planning and zoning and put up their overall plan, they had, looks like we were going to recapture some of the green space along Main Street where the right of way goes back in significantly farther than it had been.
Right.
Is that still the case?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it looks pretty much like what they had submitted at that meeting. And they were going to do some plantings along there as well. And yeah, like you said, tried to recapture some of the grass area.
That'd be great. I think when the trucks were circling around there to get into the way, they kind of made it wider and wider and wider and got closer and closer to Main Street. So
Yeah.
it'd be nice
Right.
to have a little bit more of a buffer
Yeah.
along that and make that entry to the city look better. So,
Right.
okay, well, if there are no other questions about the ordinance, does anyone have a motion to forward this to council?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to forward this to the March 12th council.
This is the 12th, that'd be the 19th.
19th? Yeah,
Yep.
you're right. Declaring it an emergency?
No.
Do we need to do that?
No, that would be on here
Or
and it already
for
is on here, but
passage.
yes, with a
With
recommendation
the
for
recommendation
passage.
for passage.
A second.
All right, we have a motion in a second. Melissa, could you do a roll call, please?
Ties,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Moats.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. The second thing we have on our agenda this evening is just an overview of what we do here on the Strategic Planning Committee. Since it's a new term and we have new members, I wanted to give a brief overview. First thing I have on here is the parks, and I'd ask the service director to give us an update on things that are happening with the parks.
Well, currently we're working on a grading plan that's being finalized for where the new shelter would go at Ted Lewis Park once we have funding approved for that. And that will raise the new building out of the floodplain. which is required whenever you have an enclosed building, so you can't be down in the floodplain with that. That's a preliminary rendering. The only comments I've gotten back on it really have been too much green. So,
Too much green?
yeah.
It's like on the siding here.
Yes,
make
so
that
the
more-
roof would match the
Oh.
green that the
Right.
rest of the buildings have and maybe a different color. I thought it looked pretty good, but, that's really the only thing I've heard from anybody that's seen these, so. We do not have a final, this is just a rendering, so there aren't any plans yet or anything.
This is just a first concept.
Right,
Now, if I understand correctly, this will replace the large shelter house at Ted Lewis that is closest to the ball diamonds there.
that's correct.
And it looks like this is going to be oriented differently than the current one. This is going to be more along the parking, is that correct?
Yeah, it'll be rotated 90 degrees from the current orientation of the shelter that's existing right now. And it will have an area much like the Starkey Pavilion has garage doors for access that you can open up and open the space.
The other end.
It'll have a concession area in it as well and some storage space to make up for some of the storage that we will be removing in the white building that's over by the ball diamond, which needs to be taken down.
The
So,
one at the back that's in bad
Yep.
shape, yes.
Yep.
Well, this will be really nice to have for Pee Wee football as well as the Tiger softball program, to have a concession there, and then they can store their equipment in this other area.
This is the one that sits long ways, right? The garage door on the, could you go back one
Yeah.
more?
I think the garage door will be closest to the
It's
front ball diamond, is that correct?
that garage
Facing.
door would be facing south.
Facing south.
okay,
and-
yeah.
Yeah, that's the parking area if you
Oh,
could
yeah,
look
I
to the
see that
right
now.
of that, or my right.
Here,
Yeah,
right,
over
that's
there
the
would be
parking.
where the
Okay.
splash pad and the current new restroom is.
Gotcha.
And that would sit at about the same elevation as that restroom would, which is why we needed to rotate its orientation so we didn't start grading out into the ball field and take away some of the ball field with the slope.
Yes. If I recall correctly, we had to put about 4 feet of elevation underneath the one. Is it about the same?
Yeah, it's probably a little more than 4 feet, but yeah, it's on that range.
Which is why we have let's see, let me go back to the beginning, why we have steps and a ramp here, it looks like, coming up.
Right.
We've got a ramp over here as well.
Question.
Yep.
Is this the shelter house that the Friends of Ted Lewis was raising money for?
That's correct.
Yes. Yeah, they've done a phenomenal
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're talking about the same. Is it, you call it a 3 seasons, not a 4 season?
Well, you call it a 3-season, but
Okay.
if we, the intent is to put some split units in there to allow it to be heated.
It will be heated? Okay, yep, good.
Only under extreme conditions you wouldn't want to be in there, but for the most part, it would operate as a 4-season, which the one at Starkey Pavilion really does also, and it's really considered a 3-season.
Okay. Great.
Do we know what the time frame is for this? What our funds are looking at right now?
Time frame is based on, we'll see what point the funds get raised to by the Friends of Ted Lewis. And at some point, I'll probably come back to council to say, they've gotten this far. Do we want to kick this off and put some funds of the cities in there
Yeah.
to get this built? I'm currently getting some pricing as quick as we can, which isn't very quick anymore. It doesn't seem like people want to just price things for you. So once we get some real numbers on what it's going to cost to build, then I'll be back with more information. So
We have a ballpark of where those funds are at this time.
I believe the PCCF funds had been up over $100,000 at this
nice.
point. They're going to spend some of that on the lighting at the park. But I believe they have a donor that's going to redonate that money to pay for the lighting, so that'll go back into the fund. So I haven't seen this quarter's fund amount, so I don't know what it is exactly right now, but the last numbers I saw were close to 100,000.
Yeah, that'll be great to get the lighting for the ball fields up to LED standards, and especially for the Pee Wee football, because they play later into the into the fall when
Yeah.
it starts getting dark really early and they need that.
Yeah.
Is this $1 million project?
Well, the grading we're figuring is about $70,000 bringing in fill and grading. So I would like to see it at about a $500,000.
Oh.
But until we get some real pricing in, I really don't know.
My only recommendation, Jim and Sherry and the friends of Ted Lewis, don't shortchange it.
Right.
You probably only do this one time. Secondly, just like phase one, we had to borrow. That may have to be considered to do it right and to not shortchange it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, we want to put an interior restroom in it.
Mhm.
Since we're
Yep.
going to have a concession stand, we're going to have to do plumbing anyhow. So we want to make it as usable as possible.
So the exterior mostly is, I see brick, but is the exterior going to be metal or some type of?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's what's planned is the lower area is going to be block or brick. And the color scheme's going to coordinate with the new buildings that we built on the other side of the parking lot.
Sounds good.
Some other work, we had a $100,000 capital grant that we're still finishing up. We've got some sidewalk work left to do with that before we can recapture those funds. And that's in Ted Lewis as well. Barthelmess got a fence that's been bent over. Got permission from the park board. They asked us, asked them if they wanted to repair it or take it down. They said it's not worth keeping up. It doesn't seem to stop anybody from crossing into the park, and I don't know why you'd want to. So they said, take it down. We're going to be taking that down. Just the damaged area, that one stretch from Kingston Pike east to the corner. So that area will be cleared out. Pricing an overall contour map and survey of Barthelmess to allow us to move forward. If we're going to do design work at Barthelmess Park, we'll need a topo map and the survey done of that property. So I've got pricing coming in for that. Tom Davis, who was the Pickaway County Parks Director, is now working for us on a contract basis, looking for grants and also looking into some of the things that were brought up at the last park board meeting, which was a skate park, and forgot what the other thing they called, some type of track for bikes.
Yeah.
Pump track? Okay, yeah, pump track. He's looking into the sharrows on the roadways. You'd mentioned that we'd like to look at some north, south, east, west sharrows, so we're looking into that as well. And other.
Sharrows, that means bike lanes?
Yes.
Out on the streets?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They're called sharrows.
Sharrows. It's a technical term I'm not familiar with.
I don't know how technical it is, but
Well.
that's what they call them.
First time I've
And
ever heard it.
Okay.
Yeah.
looking at other amenities for park use and also at maybe some different types of funding mechanisms and how other park districts operate. And maybe coming in with some suggestions for us to move forth with our park system. So.
Great.
Rhine Park, we're going to be grading the basketball courts out. We're going to begin that here before the end of March. So that'll be ready when the pavers are ready to come in to pave a 60 by 90 area, which should fit a full-size basketball court.
Great. Yeah.
And then we have some equipment that we're going to use in that. And, we'll be installing that, hopefully get it ready before summer.
Great. So we'll get it graded in March and hopefully the
Yeah.
company
Paved.
can come and get it paved in April, hopefully, knock on wood.
Depends on the
Fingers crossed.
paving contractors.
We've been waiting on them for, 6, 8 months now?
Yeah,
Something like that.
we got a price for last fall, but they were too busy to get it in. So the best price we got, they were too busy.
Yeah.
And that, unless you have any questions, is my update for the parks at this point.
I think that covers it. Sounds like you're busy. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
I do
John?
not.
Zach?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for coming. I also wanted to talk, we're going to get into our service time here, so a little bit about what we do in strategic planning. We have the Edsel plan, which is this green book. which was from 1998, so it is about 26 years old now. This is our comprehensive plan that we have for the city of Circleville, and it covers all kinds of things, including a recommendation for the bike lanes on the streets. So we're having the service department look into that right now. Some of the information on here, of course, is outdated. It recommends new schools, and we've got that done. Some things like that. But there's still some good information in here. I'm going to see if we have this on a digital file.
We do.
Do we?
Yep.
Great.
I just got a copy of it emailed
Perfect.
just the other day. So
So you can take a look at that when you get a chance. We just last year had the Montrose Group do our economic development plan, which is a great plan, but it's more about how we can be strategic in attracting new industry and business to the city. And we do that in conjunction with P3 and Tim Colburn. And Tim Colburn is going to be doing a special presentation for council. And once he gets that together, we will have him come to our meeting and have a more in-depth look at that. So on this book, which you had a digital copy sent to you, there on page 4, we have the action plan tactics, the overview here. So you can take a look at that. We'll ask Tim to go through that in more detail. And then in the back of the book, at 67 through 73, I put that on your agenda there. It talks about the tax incentives and the different things, the CRA, Community Reinvestment Area, easy enterprise zones, the TIFs, you'll hear us talk about TIFs, tax increment financing, and then the JEDs, the Joint Economic Development Districts. So gives an overview of what those incentives do and how we use those to help attract companies to come to the city. So if you want to take a look at that, that would be helpful background information. Yes, Brett?
Sure, I want to add that speaking of JED, next Tuesday in council chambers, we will have a committee as a whole meeting. Tim Colburn and our JED representative Glenn Reeser will be here to talk about and educate council, especially our new members on the JED, refresh everybody else's memory on the JED, more specifically the JED for the Sofidel project. So we will have an hour for him to come and do that. So that's next Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, so it's just a little background information to help get you on track. And all of us, like you said, need a refresher on these things. We also on strategic planning are overseeing the 3 boards, the Historic Review Board, which meets the 2nd and 4th Mondays, usually I think at 5:30, as needed. They look at certificates of appropriateness that come through. If someone wants to do a change to a building in the historic district, then they're supposed to come and file a certificate of appropriateness, and they look at the zoning and look at the historic implications and work with those property owners to keep our historic district looking nice. The Tree Commission meets the 2nd Thursdays of the month, which is actually this week, and they are busy. We have received a grant for $1 million over the next 5 years, which is really exciting, through the Inflation Reduction Act. And this community forestry grant will allow the city to hire an arborist part-time to oversee the plantings and the maintenance and those sorts of things, all things to do with trees, and to plant more trees throughout the city and increase our urban canopy. So, we also have some good news. They just got notice that we, as Circleville, has been approved to be a Tree City USA member. So yeah, so we're going to look into getting some signs and that sort of thing, and are very honored to be recognized for that. The 3rd board is the Downtown Redevelopment District Board, which just meets once or twice a year as needed. The DRDs are 10-acre districts that are created to capture increases in property tax revenue. So the first one we did was at Everett's, in the area around surrounding Everett's, when it was converted from a school into the apartments. So that money that went into that building increased the property tax value. And this program allows us to capture that increase, and then the money can be reinvested into buildings in that district. So we have the Everett's one, which has been functioning, and it goes back into the property when people do applications to do things like electrical improvements, HVAC, that kind of stuff. We also have 4 districts downtown here that are created to do the same thing, and we'll talk about that more in the future, but I just wanted to let you know. So if you're ever interested in stopping into a tree commission meeting or a historic district review meeting, I would highly recommend doing that in the next few months. Nothing urgent, but
Yeah.
just to see what our volunteers are doing. So do you have any questions about that? Thoughts?
No.
Lots to take in.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion for adjournment.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you so much. We'll start into our service meeting very soon.
Ready? Or I'm ready if you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. I'm sorry, Michelle. No, we got all evening.
I just wanted to let the strategic planning know that Jim, Hannah, Tim, Melissa, not Melissa, Tiffany and I are gonna meet for about 2 hours on Friday to look at all of those plans that you mentioned. To see if we can align them, and then that way you'll have a good understanding of where it started and where we are now.
Excellent.
So we'll have that report to you. It might take us a couple meetings, so don't
Sure.
expect
Yeah.
it
No
this
rush.
month, but we'll try to get you some.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Now, Melissa. Good evening. It is now 7:06. I'm Tom Duval, Chair of the Service Committee. With me are members Zach Brooks, Sherry Tice. We also have President Keller, Councilman Tom Kleska, Auditor Mark Bidwell, and Service Director Jim Stanley. And our Utilities Director, Brian Frost. Thank you all for attending.
John Modes.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you behind.
That's where I was hiding.
John, I apologize. Welcome.
Yes.
With that, let us start with our committee. We had a rather voluminous set of minutes from our last meeting. Have you had a chance to take a look at them?
Yes,
And do you have comments?
thought they looked good.
And therefore, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion that the minutes are approved as submitted.
I will second that.
And a voice vote should do that? Aye.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Moving into new business. Melissa, would you like to look at the first ordinance?
A resolution authorizing Uptown Circleville Main Street program to use city streets for their First Friday event.
Just to look at that in a little, this is a recurring resolution. It's basically the First Friday event from Uptown Circleville. It'll be in North Court Street. It'll start at Court and Main and go as far as Pinckney on the following dates: April 5th, May 3rd, June 7th, July 5th, August 2nd, September 6th, October 4th, and that'll be held from 3 to 9 o'clock p.m. As part of that approval, we're requiring Uptown Circleville to have a $2 million certificate of liability insurance should something happen during that period of time. Do you have any questions or thoughts?
No, I think this is a great opportunity for the city, and I think they'd have different events planned each month, don't they, generally?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's exciting. I hope people will take advantage of it.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to send this on to council next week. Do we want to do it next week?
Sure.
Is that fine? Okay. I don't think we need to make a recommendation for passage, but I'll make a recommendation for passage.
It's approval. It's a
Approval.
resolution, so we approve
We approve.
resolutions.
Okay. So I make a motion to send this to council for approval.
I'll second that.
I hear a second. Melissa, would you take a roll call?
Duval,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes. Thank you, Sherry.
Our next point is the creation of a city planner. Our service director has thoughts.
Yes, it's, I've spoken with most of you about this, but it's, to me, time to implement that position with the amount of work that we have coming in and going on. We currently have somebody doing most of that work, who is our zoning inspector, which we really need to create the position and allow that person to delve more into the planning side of things versus just the zoning side of things. So it's my intent to do that if approved by council and to hire somebody pretty quickly to do that, start doing the planning position. And doing that as well as running the zoning department. So until such time as we can get somebody else in the zoning department, but it would still be under the planning person, so under their direction.
Do we have any questions?
Just a comment, been on council a long time. This is a long overdue position. I know Jim will have to talk about creating an ordinance, job description, salary and benefits. When he's ready for that, we'll bring it back to your committee, then we'll flow it to finance for final approval.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe that, does that go to judicial for creation of a
Oh, Jim.
position?
Come on back.
I think it does.
I think
We'll look at that when it's ready.
Okay. All right.
We're standing by, Jim.
All right.
I agree. This is a wonderful thing for the city to have a planner. It would be most welcome. And in addition to a zoning inspector, we really need.
We need both,
because
yes.
There's lots of work there to be done.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, and with the addition of NCAs and TIFs coming in, we have, hopefully can create the funding to allow these positions to flourish, so. And we should start seeing some of that hopefully in the coming year or so.
Since you brought the NCA up, is that, I know we established the first one, or is that going to be moving forward soon? Some of the new developments?
It should be, yes.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
So been waiting for the last council member to be appointed. I plan to schedule time with Rob McCarthy to come back here. We'll have an NCA meeting to update, educate the new members, 1, 2, 3, of what the NCA is, do the swearing in, get them totally caught up to be on the NCA board. So that is in the future, but yes, yeah.
The only comment I'd have, Jim, is that we would highly encourage you to get those three pieces of information together and bring it forward for the planner. It's as everyone has said, is needed, will be helpful. And I think time is of the essence.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have any problem getting that.
Now,
approved, so.
Jim, are we still at approximately 830 new properties under construction or will be?
Not under construction. What we've got that's currently approved for construction is approximately 70 lots at which will finish Heritage Ponds subdivision out. Another 116 at the DR Horton site. And there is a preliminary plat that's been approved for, I believe it's 68 lots just to the north of Heritage Ponds, which is up in the Chatham Road area, but that one hasn't moved forward with any engineering yet or not. And we do have the site across from OCU that has come into the planning and zoning, and we've tabled that one for right now, and we're going to work on access to 22 with them. Hopefully, we can get something worked out there to create a better ingress and egress point for that subdivision.
Thank you.
That one's approximately 319 homes at this point. but
Okay.
That
Good.
may change. That's a preliminary stage.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? If not, Melissa, you want to go to the next ordinance?
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to apply for, accept, and enter into a Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, Ohio Water Development Authority, and Water Supply revolving loan account, construction loan for the utility improvements for Montclair Avenue, and declaring an emergency.
Jim, would you like to hit the high spots for us?
That's the large construction project for this year. It'll replace some sanitary, remove a home septic system, replace water line, and redo the streets. I brought Brian Frost along with me to answer any specific questions you might have. So that's a high-level overview of the project.
You mentioned Beverly Road, Gulford Road, Northridge Road, as well as Montclair.
That's correct.
Are those contiguous?
Yeah, Beverly and Montclair basically combine into Montclair at Pickaway Street, and Guilford runs between Northridge and Montclair. And they're all in bad condition.
Mhm.
They shouldn't.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is a $1.4 million loan.
That's the maximum loan ask. We're still looking at some, is it ODOD? Yeah, we've got a grant ask in for Ohio Department of Development. So depending on what happens with that, that'll determine the size of that loan, but that would be the maximum ask estimated. That's the estimated cost, so.
And that contract has been let with Strand?
The engineering portion of it has
Yes.
been, but not, the construction contract isn't out yet.
What's the timing look like?
Timing would look like, depending on if we get ODOD funding, we would like to start construction in July with that project. It could run us into some paving next year, depending on how the funding comes in. So we would start the project this year, kind of do what we did with Circle Drive and hold off the final paving until the following year. But yeah, it's going to require some tying in houses that are currently laterals are going out the rear of the houses and moving a sanitary sewer out to the front versus in behind, because we can't get to it to maintain it. And that line has a lot of problems that we just can't fix because of where it's located. So that's one of the big portions of the project. There is a little bit of storm sewer as well on that project, not a lot, but about 300 feet of storm sewer. So, and then some curb repair. We're not going to be replacing curbs, but we'll be repairing some of them.
Any questions? Any
So,
further questions?
well, just to repeat the overview, so you're going to be doing new sewer lines, new water lines. Is that for everybody or just?
Partially
some?
new sewer lines. Not everybody's going to be, not all the houses are on this backyard sewer. So it's some sanitary sewer lines will affect mostly the houses on Guilford, I believe. And there'll be a few laterals we have to run, I believe, on the Beverly side. So, and there is one house that's still on a septic system that we want to eliminate while we're in
So
there.
this is part of the ones that we heard about, the 40 or so that had the septic.
That's another project.
That's a different one, okay.
Yeah, that's a different project.
Okay.
So.
But once you get all that done, then they'll repave the roads and it'll be
Correct.
nice roads because those roads are in such bad shape.
Mhm.
But I understand we need to do the lines first instead of digging up brand new roads.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And we try to take that into consideration on all those projects as to, sometimes it's better to get the water lines replaced rather than, like you say, tear up a new street. So, because asphalt's expensive as well.
Amen.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we forward this ordinance to the March 19th council meeting with a recommendation for passage.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Do I hear a roll call?
Duval,
Yes.
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
And then Melissa, our final?
An ordinance amending the annual appropriation ordinance in the General Fund 101, State Highway Improvement Fund 204, Capital Improvement 0.4%, Income Tax Fund 206, Safety Forces 0.5%, Tax Fund 212, Fire Loss Prevention Fund 251, COVID-related federal grants fund 257, Safer Grant Fund 258, Capital Improvements Fund 306, Wastewater Operating Fund 808, Waterworks Improvement and Extension Fund 819, Sanitary Sewer Operating Fund 909, and Sanitary Sewer Improvements and Extension Fund 920 of the City of Circleville.
Thank you. Mr. Bidwell, the next hour is yours.
Well, if you really want me to speak for an hour, I can do that, but I don't think you'll want to be bored with these numbers. So, well, let me rephrase that, be bored with them, but going too far in depth with them. But most of the numbers, you'll see that it is a rather large amount, and you have the handout with the actual information beside each one of those. I will tell you that I'll just run through these pretty quickly, and then if you have any questions, you can just stop me. First off, we are putting aside $5,000 for technology upgrade, which is the panic alarms here in City Hall, and I think across the street. But we're needing that money for the panic alarms. The $2,000 for street marking in Fund 204 is going to show 204 on here, and that was basically money we didn't have at the end of the year, so we had to wait till the carryover was available, and you'll see that on a lot of these here. So that's for Fund 204. 206 is $480,000. We had to wait till, again, the end of the year for the carryover. So this was already approved by council. We just did not have the funds available to appropriate them until the funds were showing up at the end of the year. And actually, that's 20,000 short, so we're still going to try and get 20,000 more towards that, so we can make it to the exact the million sum that we had actually set aside for those street improvements, which again will go towards what we're looking at here. Next is OPWC matching funds. Again, this money had to wait till the end of the year for carryover, and that's $300,000. Again, approved by council already. We have legal expenses of $50,000 that we need additional. We also have a fire loss proceeds. This is a person that had a house burnt down, and we basically get the fire loss insurance money. And then once the property is back up to specifications that the service department lays out, we will then provide those funds. So that's what that's for. We were over budgeted for the ARPA fund, so I did reduce that by $9,000 for the downtown tree and sidewalk replacement. And just to kind of let everybody know that those trees are going to be replaced that are down right now. I've heard some rumblings that, you know, we're losing our trees downtown. Those trees are going to be replaced. So next is the FEMA grant funds. They finally came in. This is for the SAFER grant that was applied for, and we received March of 2023. This was our first deposit of those monies. Those just came in about a week ago. And we will be receiving another drop of that, hopefully about $500,000 within the next month or so. And again, this is for the 6 firefighters at the police department that has been funded by FEMA. The remaining, the firehouse roof, $6,000. This is the remaining work that needed to be waited, that we had to wait till in the year carryover again. We had some insurance money that came in for utilities department. You'll see that in Fund 808, which is $544.09. We appropriated that back because they actually paid it out before they had the funds out of that account. So we're reallocating the insurance money that came in. Then there is a $102,000 for the Clark Drive OWDA. And again, these are monies that we actually never see. The money comes in and money goes out, straight out, back out to OWDA. So we actually never see those funds. The next line is for, I'm sorry, when you'll see it on the actual ordinance, you'll see 819, you'll see one bulk number, but the three numbers that are broken down into that are 102,000, 55,000 in lines, extensions, and improvements, and $250,000 in city match OPWC. And again, these were all monies that were waiting for end of year carryover. We have the money now, so we can appropriate those. Next, we have another reallocation of insurance, which is the other half of the check that came through. And there is one that we did the update for, which is on here, which is 909. We have $6,500 that from Kokosing for hitting a line. They had to pay us, so we got the money, and we're going to be paying Horizon. They hit a fiber optic line out by the utilities, by the sewage plant, and then or wastewater plant. And then finally, there was 315,000 again. We had to wait till the end of the year for the money to carry over, and that's $315,000 for sanitary sewer improvements and extensions that is available now to be appropriated.
Question? Oh. President Keller.
Yes. In the name of helping the new council members, and used to be the finance chair for years, this is called a financial housekeeping ordinance. So at the beginning of the year, council sets a budget for all departments in the city across a lot of funds, and that is the budget. But throughout the year, monies come in, monies need to be appropriated, funds need to be reduced, there's special projects that happen. Things happen throughout the year that causes the budget to need to be adjusted. It's through this type of legislation. It's called the financial housekeeping ordinance. That attachment that Mark was just reading from right here, all this matches up to this legislation. So it's kind of his explanation on the monies and the dollars amounts and the funds and where the money's being going to, how it's needed, or those kind of things. So you will see these again throughout the year. They're called financial housekeeping ordinances.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I did have a question, Mark, on the safety forces legal expenses. Is that past or present or future?
This is future.
That's our best guess.
Yeah, that's overestimating, I believe.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for doing the spreadsheet for us because
Yeah.
that really helps.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Since we're doing this in lieu of the finance committee, we will send it straight to council.
And Tom, thanks for doing that.
Oh.
Katie had another commitment. You serve on finance committee,
Sure.
so I appreciate you
No.
hearing the legislation
Happy to do it.
in the name of timing for Mark.
Sure. Happy to do it. So with the motion to move this to council, I am listening.
Do we need a recommendation for passage?
Yes, sir.
I will make a motion for passage at the March 19th meeting with a recommendation for passage.
Thank you, sir.
I will second that motion.
Melissa, roll call.
Ball,
Yes,
Tice,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
motion passed. That then takes us to, with some regret, the end of our meeting. I'm sorry, President Keller.
And one more thing, I announced it at the previous committee, but again, next Tuesday, here in council chambers at 6 o'clock, there will be a committee of the whole meeting for the purpose of a JED education and information for all of city council. The presenters will be Tim Colburn, P3 Economic Development Director, and Glenn Reeser, who's the city representation on the JED board. They both will be here to take about an hour to educate the new council members, as well as refresh old council members on what the JED's about. Thank you, Tom.
Shirley. And again, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion that we adjourn.
I second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, meeting adjourned at 7:29.